sure it wasn't a great day for the Bombers yesterday. They were beaten up in that first quarter and the first half. How did you see the game?
Well, I think you've got to look at the two sides together. I think Collingwood did it very well. Obviously, the move of Pendlebury into the centre was coming. There's no doubt about that, and we're not here to discuss Collingwood, but you've got to look at both sides, and why he's been playing off the half-back line has been a mystery. His ability to influence the game early as a superstar player was significant. I think his first 5 touches were all involved in goal chain, so he was really important. And of course their tactics of running with our two key ball winners in Zaharakis with Greenwood and young Merritt with Crisp was absolutely significant, because it just takes away your 2 prime movers. We know that it's a developing midfield. We understand the reasons why, but it's quite clear that Collingwood identified those 2 boys, took away, and then the depth of Essendon is greatly exposed through the midfield. They were a lot stronger. That allowed De Goey, that allowed Sidebottom, that allowed the extra players Collingwood had to really show ball winning ability. They monstered Essendon in and around the close stuff early and had easy access to goal, and particularly with the very important Sidebottom. He's a very good footballer, and you mustn't underestimate this. So from my assessment, Collingwood did their planning really well, and Essendon's depth, particularly through the midfield, as we understand, was exposed this week.
The Bombers were better in the second half, outscored the Pies, but how much, if anything, do you take out of that?
I've taken a lot out of that because it's happened 2 or 3 times. I really didn't take a lot out of it this time. That's not putting a negative cloud on it. They did continue to work, but it was more, to me, individuals and not the way the team played. You know, there's a tick to Fantasia again. The boys kept working very hard. It was an incredibly difficult day for the forwards. Grimley did some nice things, but once again, those 3 backs, Brown, Frost and Reid, that we spoke about during the week, were able to control the balls coming in because they didn't come in with any fluency, and it made it very, very difficult for a forward line. So I agree with John. I've been quite happy with the back line. The midfield's developing, but the forward line is significantly a work in progress, and they'll have a look at that at selection this week.
There obviously will be changes. VFL had a really good win. Is the temptation, after a loss like this, to sort of make wholesale changes? Do you have to resist that and stick with them?
Well, it's a really good question given the circumstances that Essendon find themselves in. If they had their time again, they probably lack big bodies and experience. So to balance the development of the young players, I would certainly look at Crowley, who got himself in a really good form, and also Grimer, who played an outstanding game on Cloak. So there's 2 big, strong, experienced players that can complement these younger players. Probably I'd favour the experienced players for all the reasons, bigger bodies and the experience around stoppages in the back line. I'd also consider something that might be slightly controversial. I think young Parrish, if you want a 200-game player, you might have to give him a rest. He's been a shining light, but he's very young. He's still a developing player, and what I noticed on the weekend, and from experience with young players, the first thing that sign of fatigue is their kicking. His kicking lack penetration and missed the targets. That to me is a sign of fatigue. And you don't want a 20-game player, you want a 200-game player. So send him home, send him down the bush for a week and give him a spell. That's about management. That's from my vision. They'll have GPS and they'll have loads for training. They'll know all the technical aspects of his development. But from sitting in the grandstand and watching him, he's been up and about, a big pre-season. We're 6 weeks into the season. There's nothing wrong with giving the young fella a spell and getting him ready for the next quarter of the season. And that's what I would do.
What about the approach to the wider group this week? How do the coaching staff, it's only a 6-day turnaround, how do the coaching staff get the boys up for Sunday?
Well, firstly, they would look at selection and look at what's available. And as you said, the VFL is playing very well. There's a big step up in standard. That's why I would favour the more experienced players. The opposition, once again, a young side, a developing side under a new coach. So it's going to be a good game of football. On the training track, they look a little bit tired, and you can understand that because of the lack of pre-season, a lot of and the amount of young players that are in the side. They certainly won't go hard on the training track. They will have to really freshen this group up, particularly in their minds, and get them re-energised in their mental state. That's going to be really important. And just review the game, because I reckon for the first time, even though we have to talk positively, generally I reckon that would be the first time that they would be particularly disappointed in their performance. Because from my perspective, it's been bit by bit moving up, even though losing games. Yep, we can see that happening. That was good. Yes, we're going in the right direction. I reckon we've probably gone 2 or 3 forward, and that was 1 back, and they're the facts of the situation. So they've got to review that, look at it, be selection, it'll be training loads, and it'll be mental fatigue, and maybe, for the example, maybe give a young kid a little bit of a break, because I'll keep saying it, you don't want a 20-game player, you want a 200-game player. So give young Parrish a bit of a break this week.
You've touched on the forward line today, and you speak about the centrepiece to it all, Joe Daniher, this week in your article on Wednesday.
Yeah, we have a good look at Joe, all the positives that he can bring in his development, and where he's come from and where he is. So that's my article this week on Joe Daniher, and it just touches on my observations from the grandstand. So you might find it quite interesting to see where he is at this stage of his career. But on Saturday, the ball movement, Collingwood just didn't let Essendon move the ball. So, as I said, the forward line, including Joe, is still a work in progress, Simon.
Well, we look forward to reading your article. Shorey, thanks a lot for your time, mate.
Good on you, mate. Thank you.